How's it going, LEGO fans? Welcome to another LEGO build. This time, you are in for a real treat, as I've been wanting to share this build with you for a long time. Why is this a real treat, you may ask? Well, this is my second favorite set in the Chinese Festival Special Edition line, and is my favorite LEGO set that LEGO, has put out this whole entire year. Granted, we are only about halfway through the year, so maybe my opinion will change later on? I don't know. Anyway, you will hear me say this time and again on this build that I absolutely love the aesthetics of this set and how fun it was to put together. So this is the 8th or 9th set in the Chinese Festival Special Edition. It was released on January 11th, 2021 and weighs in at a meaty 1761 pieces. The high piece count translates to a price of $120, which is not cheap at all. There are 11 total big steps or bags in this set. Also, the large amount of pieces will translate to a longer video, so sit tight and watch the build. In my opinion, this set is worth every penny that I paid for it, as well as the time waiting for it to get delivered to me as well. Getting back to the set, I will tell you that it was definitely worth the wait for sure. The set is packed with a ton of Asian type elements and actually feature many unique minifigures. I believe there are 7 in total. These minifigures are exclusive to this particular step and are not featured in any set except this one. There are many creative uses for pieces in the set, which I will highlight during the build as usual. So this monster set is split up into 2 pieces, with you starting off on the larger 2/3 side of the build, and you finish it off with the smaller 1/3 side of the build. So in the first step, the first thing that you are doing is building a minifigure. I really like the first minifigure, which is a man that is eating what appears to be dumplings out of a bowl with a spoon. The expression on the man's face is absolutely hysterical to me, as he has stuffed his mouth full of these dumplings. Aside from the figure, you are going to be building the foundation of the larger side of the set. This consists of laying down many flat, gray 1x6 elements on the outside border of this set to mimic the sidewalk that goes around the Lantern Festival Park. There are 1x2 gray elements that you put down to mimic the sewer grates that you would find on a sidewalk, as well as laying down flat gray elements to extend the sidewalk. You also put down some elements that represent the path to get into the park, and finally, you build the foundation of the walls that surround the park. Aside from that, this step is rather unremarkable and does not offer many variations in building. The second step is where the build starts to get a little bit more interesting and colorful. However, we will talk about the minifigure that you get to build in this step. The figure is that of a female, and she is holding a cell phone. The minifigure is nice, but, unremarkable compared to the first minifigure in step 1. Unfortunately, she does not have the same goofy expression, again, as the first minifigure in this set. Moving on to the main build, you will begin with building the foundation of the largest and most prominent feature in this set, which is the koi pond. You put down a bunch of green Lego elements to represent the bottom of the pond, and some sand-colored Lego elements which represent the sand at the edge of the pond. You'll continue to build this area out until it spreads from one end of the Lego set all the way over to the other end of the Lego set. About halfway through with laying down the bottom of the koi pond, you will be moving to build the foundations of the ground areas of the set, which features a bull statue and the bridge to get from one side of the koi pond to the other side of the koi pond. I think that it was pretty cool laying down colorful bricks to represent the foundations. However, in subsequent steps, the colorful red, pink, yellow, light green, and light blue elements will be covered up as they do not match the aesthetics of the set. Anyway, after the foundations of these areas are laid down, you then move on to finishing the bottom of the koi pond. Out of all the steps in this particular Lego set, step 3 is by far my favorite step because you are pouring water into the pond. Well, you aren't really pouring water into the pond, but you are using translucent 1x2 flat blue elements to represent the water. You start the step by slowly filling in the water of the pond, and interspersed in between the water elements are these 1x1 green flower type elements to represent plants that you would see floating on the water. Even though the build is time-lapsed, you will see me pause a lot to double check if I had laid down the translucent water elements correctly. For some reason, I also had a hard time seeing the elements and how they were translated in the instruction book. Aside from that, I wanted to go slowly so I wouldn't screw up any part of the build as well. Then, as you fill in about 2/3 of the pond, you start putting down printed Lego pieces which feature koi, which completely blew my mind and is likely my favorite single part of the set. I believe this may have been the first time I have seen that Lego has printed a koi on a translucent tile. Here you can see close-ups of the fish that are printed because I am so enamored of this particular element. It appears that there are 2 different types of koi, with one being your standard red and white in color, while the other one is a more colorful red and yellow one. Personally, I like the red and white one better. So moving on to step 4, there are 2 minifigures that are featured. The first one is of a man that is wearing a 2021 Year of the Ox hoodie. He appears to be enjoying a tasty beverage, and I would like to have a sample of that tasty beverage right now, as the expression on his face is selling whatever he is drinking. The second minifigure is that of a lady who is wearing a matching Year of the Ox hoodie. However, she is holding a selfie stick which is ubiquitous when you travel around in Asia. Apparently, she is smiling for a selfie that she is trying to take. Anyway, this part of the build starts off with forming a border around the koi pond. The border around the pond is achieved once again by using sand-colored elements to represent a small beach that surrounds the koi pond, which I think is a nice touch. After the border has been put down, you will then start building the grass elements that is all over the park. This is unsurprisingly achieved by using green Lego elements. Once the grass has been put down, you will then start building the foundation of the ox statue and the statue itself. What I found really cool about the ox statue is that it uses Lego light brick element to light up the body of the statue. It appears this statue also features a unique printed Lego part which features a red piece with a golden spiral at the center of it. I have never seen this type of printed Lego piece before. Another interesting thing that I would like to point out is that the tail of the ox is represented by a golden tassel piece that you find a lot in these Chinese festival special edition sets. I will regale you with a short story of loss and disappointment that ends happily with regards to me trying to obtain the set. So January 11th was a Sunday morning, and I woke up with eager anticipation to buy this set at the Lego store. I completely snoozed on the online sale, and by the time I woke up, I believe the set was already out of stock, and I could not even put in a back order for it. However, I was confident that my local Lego store would have the set that I was lusting after. Since I did not have anything to do that morning, I arrived at the mall half an hour before the Lego store was open. As I walked toward the store, I noticed that the doors were closed. Big surprise, right? And there was a line queuing outside the door. I was extremely puzzled as to why people would line up 30 minutes before the store opened. This was the first time in which I saw a line outside of any Lego store ever. Regardless, I started counting the amount of people in line, and the line was already between 15 to 20 people deep. As I did not have anything to do except wait around, I decided to talk to the other people who were stuck in line with me, and I was asking around what they were in line for. Well, my worst fears were realized, after every single one of them said that they were in line for this very set. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach that I would not be able to purchase this set during launch day, but against all hope, I decided to wait in line anyway, hoping and praying that I would have plenty of stock for all of us. Well, to no one's surprise, by the time the 8th or 9th person was let in the store, the sets had all sold out. Dejected, I ended up buying the Story of Neon, which I thought was a meh set, and did not fill the void in my broken heart. Long story short, I had to camp in front of the computer day in and day out on the online Lego store and wait for this set to switch from an out-of-stock status to a backorder status, so at least I could order the set. So in all, this set took me about 3 months after its release for me to actually get it into my grubby little hands. In Step 5, sadly, there are no minifigures in sight, but you get to build the very Asian-style bridge to get from one side of the park to the other side of the park, without getting your feet wet by trudging through the koi pond. So in the first few steps, you're going to be covering all those colorful Lego elements that you previously laid down, because again, these colors don't match with the overall theme of the set. This is done by laying down light gray concrete Lego slabs over those pieces that will, unfortunately, never see the light of day again. After that, you will be laying down bricks on the cobbled walkway to, well, give the walkway all its cobbliness? Is that even a word? How about we leave it as flair and character? Next, you will be moving on to building the outer wall of the park, and this is achieved by putting down many thick white Lego elements. The main event of this step, as I said before, is the bridge. To no one's surprise, you will be using 2 white arch elements to form the bottom archway of the bridge. Then careful detail is added so that the character of the bridge starts to take form. The smoothness of the bridge is attained by using studless curved white pieces that go on top of the bridge. The finishing touch is to put 4 rounded gray orbs on the bridge that give it a little bit more flavor. Also, what I found really interesting about the build is that the bridge is put down at an angle which is not typically found in a build. The designer used 1 circular gray element on either side of the bridge that is usually reserved for spinning an element which is connected to the top of the circular gray element. In step 6 is where you start to breathe life into the park or the Lego model. First of all, this step features a little boy minifigure. He's wearing a little red scarf around his neck, and his body features a really cool printed t-shirt. The kid is also carrying around a red lantern in celebration. I believe this printed red translucent piece is also a new one that I have never seen before. After the minifigure is completed, you will be putting some lily pads and leaves around the koi pond. As I have said before, these small touches really give life to the set, and I absolutely love how the lily pads look because, in my opinion, these look like real lilies. Moving on, you will be building the small bamboo forest in the middle of the park right next to the future pagoda. The bamboo forest is created by connecting green Lego tube-like elements together on top of each other. Then, to represent the leaves of the bamboo trees, you are connecting 3-pronged green leaf elements on top of the tube-like elements. You repeat this process 2 times for the taller bamboo plants, once for a medium plant, and then 3 times for the shorter bamboo plants. Next, you will be building a string of lanterns that go over the red ox statue, and this is done by, well, using a variety of pieces to represent lanterns. One of those elements is exactly a Chinese red lantern piece. The next one is a red cylindrical element, and the final type is the printed translucent red element that can also be found in the lantern that the child in this step is carrying. Another new element that I would like to point out to everyone is a printed plastic banner piece that I believe is a custom one that is created for this set. These banners are made of thin red plastic and hangs down from 3 separate lanterns on the outside walls of the park. Step 7 is the last step that you will be building on the larger part of the park. You will first be building up the outer wall of the park, which is done by using a mixture of white, light gray, and black Lego elements. What I wanted to point out was the designer's ingenuity to translate the distinctness of an Asian-style roof onto the Lego model. This is cleverly done by using the rounded half-circle 1x1 black element repeatedly along the length of the roof. I really think the designer was super successful in this translation. After the roof is completed, there's really not much left in this step. The only thing that remains is to build some outside lampposts and add a tree that has light pink and light purple elements, which I assume represent the color of small blooms on real-life trees during the spring season. Alright folks, are you still with me? Because we are moving on to step 8. We have finished building the larger portion of the Spring Lantern Park, and we are now moving on to building the smaller side of the park. This step features another older male minifigure. This minifigure has glasses and is wearing a cool looking horizontally striped knit sweater. In the figure's hands, he is carrying a Lego camera, which I assume he's going to be taking a crap ton of pictures of this superbly detailed Lego park. As with step 1 and step 8, you are building the foundations of the other side of the park as well as the prominent pagoda that dominates this side of the park. Again, to no one's surprise, the foundations use light gray pieces repeatedly around the outside edges. Then after that, you will be using colorful pink, yellow, light green, and blue pieces in the middle to lay down more foundation. And as before, unfortunately these pieces will sadly never see the light of the day again. At the end of the step, you are laying down the sod, and this is done by, unsurprisingly, large green Lego elements overlaid on top of those colored pieces. Finally, you will be laying down cobblestones on the pathway that is inside of the park. At the beginning of step 9, you are going to be building a little girl minifigure. She is wearing a custom printed Lego torso piece, which features, I believe, is either a purple horse or unicorn. She also seems to be quite happy because she's playing with a white bunny, which I can only assume is on red skates? I really can't explain this one. A bunny on red skates doesn't really make much sense to me, but you know what? Whatever, it's Lego. Moving on, you will be building up the rocky area around the pagoda, as well as building up the floor of the pagoda. What I found really cool was the shape of the floor of the pagoda that supports these 6 stands on each corner of the floor. This is done by putting together many 3-pronged Lego elements and arranging those elements in a hexagonal shape. Another unique thing that I wanted to point out is the added touch of a large round white table at the center of the pagoda. Finally, the 6 maroon colored supports are added to the set to form the outer pillars of the pagoda. Oh boy, here comes step 10, folks. We are one step away from finishing the build and this rather long video. In this step, you are going to be building the deep, rich blue roof of the pagoda. In fact, this whole entire step is dedicated to the roof, which should be an indication of how complicated the roof actually is. As with step 9, you are arranging these 3-pronged gray elements in a hexagon shape to represent the bottom of the roof. These same gray elements would then be placed on top of the 6 maroon-colored support beams. From there, you are gradually building up the roof by building on top of the hexagonal bottom of the floor. Each 6 sides or shingles of the roof is repeated 6 times by using the same technique over and over again. Finally, when you are done with all 6 shingles, you snap them into place on top of these golden Lego pieces. Finally, at the end, the designer decided to use a blue banana type element to represent the angular corners of the pagoda. However, I will say that attaching this banana element with a clip at the end of it to the top of the roof did not yield great results because the clip does not attach securely to the black steering wheel element. I will say that the pagoda is spot on Lego representation to a real life pagoda with the roof, pillars, and other elements that are hanging on the bottom of the roof. Step 11. The end is in sight, folks. This step starts off with using the same green type plant elements to form a couple bamboo trees next to the pagoda. Next, you will be building lanterns on each side of the pathway that leads up to the pagoda, which I think is an awesome touch. These lanterns also use the same red translucent printed Lego elements that are found throughout the set. Moving on, you will be building more of the outside wall that surrounds this park by using a combination of white, light gray, and black Lego elements. In order to maintain coherency and consistency of the wall throughout the Spring Lantern Park, the designer used the same pattern to represent the roof of the wall as in Step 7. Mirroring Step 7, the final step ends with building an outside lamppost with 2 lanterns hanging on from either side of it, and then adding a red minifigure on the outside of the wall. Phew! That was the longest build to date, folks. Thanks for sticking around with me until the end. I truly appreciate your support. So here are my overall thoughts about this set. I absolutely love the set. There is only one negative thing that I will repeat, which is that the prongs on the extended blue banana elements attach very not securely to the steering wheel element. The clip is loose, so the elements fall off easily if the set is bumped or jostled a little bit. Aside from that small little gripe, I think that this set is absolutely perfect. You have heard me say this before time and again, that I believe the koi pond is the centerpiece for me. The pond looks so serene and inviting with the koi, leaves, and lily pads. I really like how the bridge that spans from one end of the pond to the other end of the pond, as it looks flowing and elegant. Another thing I wanted to point out is how the bamboo forest looks spot on and is a great representation of a real one given the amount of pieces it took to represent the forest. Finally, I absolutely love the various lantern elements. The lanterns are found all over parks in Taiwan throughout the Chinese New Year, and this park completely reminds me of being back in Taiwan during the New Year. Bravo LEGO for a supremely designed set. The aesthetics are brilliant and sublime. Again, thanks for staying around, folks. Please remember to subscribe to this channel to support it and hit that bell icon to receive notifications for more of these LEGO builds. I will see you all in the next build.